Start. Oh.
I like how there's no need to sync with this. It's very convenient.
Oh, isn't it awesome?
It's great. No editing at all.
I'm glad I picked this up from Caden, actually, because this
just stole his idea.
Totally. I told him all about it. He was fine with it.
Well, to be fair, he's on hiatus now, you said, so.
Yes. That doesn't mean we can steal his ideas freely, Taylor.
Yes, it is. That's how it works. In between the filming of the original Star Wars trilogy and the prequel trilogy, if you want to rip off Star Wars, it was fair game. That's how it worked, man.
Fair enough. I'll put that there.
Which is appropriate considering our topic of conversation.
What is up, YouTubers? Clayton and Taylor here with another podcast. So how y'all doing out there today? Don't answer that because I can't hear you. So
Don't answer that. Please shut the fuck up.
So as you may notice from our avatars today,
And also from the title.
From the title. Shush, they haven't read the title. They just click. They're loyal fans. They don't read the title. They just click. They see a new video. They click.
Who are these people? Where are they from? Where are they coming from? Where are they going? Please tell me these things.
Where are they going to? Okay, now I think the volume is too high.
That's because we start yelling as soon as
It's true, we do.
We get enthusiastic. We start yelling. We gesture.
You start yelling.
I gesture everywhere. Yes.
I sometimes have to talk over you. That's the worst of it.
That's
So sorry about the fluctuation of sound.
I'm gonna really yell. That's still pretty good.
That's good. That's good. So yeah, today's topic is now we're putting it as Star Trek versus Star Wars. I want to put out now. This is not a popularity contest.
No.
What this will be is us.
It's personal preference.
Not just personal preference. It is also us bringing up information about which one did which, maybe in the best way, or more to the point, just what they did with themselves.
Yes, basically,
it's more informative than anything.
Basically, we're doing what we did Persona, but with Star Wars and Star Trek specifically.
Okay, to be fair, we tried to draw blood on Persona, to be fair.
Yes.
This one, I think we can be a little more chill.
I don't think that you can really have any opinions that are going to make me like, what the fuck is wrong with you? I'm going to kill you.
No, same with me.
Yeah. So,
going into that, our very tame storyline.
Oh, wait, specifically, I should mention, this is original series Star Trek and original trilogy Star Wars.
We're going back to original series Star Trek again for another foray.
Because that is the only Star Trek series that I have watched, and it is the original series Star Wars is the best comparison. So it kind of makes sense.
Yes, well, yeah, the best way to put it. So, where should we start? Well, I think we'll look at this non-existent list over here. Totally, they don't know that it's there. Shut up, Clayton.
What list? In text document, open bracket, 3, close bracket.
Dash notepad. Let's start right off. Today, the first thing we're doing, characters.
Okay.
So, we'll start off, we'll do some talk about the mains, obviously, the main characters. So, to start off with...
Let's not spend an hour and a half on just on characters.
We are going to. You know we're going to.
God, it's 2 in the morning. I would like to be in bed eventually. God.
Sleep is for the weak.
You're a madman, I swear.
I am. I'm a madman with 4 days off, so I don't have sleep.
I don't know how the hell you pulled that shit.
I didn't. They just gave it to me. Anyways, whatever. Off topic. So, I think we should focus maybe just on 3 main characters. Mm-hmm. Because there are 3 main characters in Star Wars.
3 main characters.
I think we can work three. There's a bunch of main characters in Star Trek, but I think we can work on.
I'd say in the original series Star Trek, it is primarily the trifecta. It is Kirk, Spock, and Bones.
As shown by your avatar.
Because
shown by your avatar right here.
Yes, hello, I got wag of me. Yes, hello, I am Dr. Leonard McCoy Bones.
I'm a doctor, not a picture on the screen.
I'm Han Solo. I am in shitty acting. I'm Harrison Ford, and I can't act.
Fuck you. Are we drawing blood? I might need to murder you now.
Okay.
You don't talk bad about my boy Harrison.
I'm gonna put an asterisk. I'm Harrison Ford, and I choose not to act in most of my films.
Because the man is an amazing actor. Hold your tongue. This is not what we're here for. No. This is a damn chill.
Okay, so and then the 3 main characters in the original Star Wars trilogy are Han, Luke, and Leia. Which makes
it probably should go like Luke, Han, and Leia if you go in chronological.
For some reason, Han, Luke, and Leia just sounds
It rolls better.
It rolls.
I think it's because our mind reads the alphabet in that order.
Yeah.
So HLL. So.
Except for the fact that Luke would come after Leia. Han, Leia,
yes,
Luke.
but we're just going with H and then L's.
Okay. We're
also chauvinists, I guess, and we're thinking of the boy before the girl.
Yes. The bros before hoes, as it were.
Okay, so let's start with our 2 main boys. That would be Luke versus Kirk, which is interesting if you think about it, because of the 3 Star Wars characters, it would almost be you think it would almost be best to fit him against Han.
They're
they're much more similar in personality.
I suppose there is a definite kind of, like, brashness. Like, they're both very prideful. They're very confident people.
Mm-hmm.
And they're more, like, action over words.
True.
Like, there are so many episodes in the original Star Trek series where as soon as, like, somebody comes on an Enterprise, like, Kirk just fucking Chad strides all over them and slaps them upside the head and is like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Get off my goddamn ship! This is my goddamn ship! I'm the captain of the fucking Enterprise! Get the fuck off my goddamn ship! And then this, like, weird spectral spacing is like, I will not get off your ship, Captain Kirk. That's the entire series right there.
The spectral space things invading Captain Kirk's privacy.
Captain Kirk just had to try to sit down and have a good read. Hello, Captain Kirk. I'm here to do some...
Damn it, I'm on the toilet!
He's reading his space webcomics.
He's reading space porn, let's face it. It's Kirk.
Fair enough.
Gotta get them alien titties. So I don't know. How do you want to fit them again? Should we really just go with archetypes of where their things are?
I think we should go for main character.
So Luke versus Kirk.
Spock, I think would be
best with Leia.
Yeah, because they're more logically minded.
They're the ones that are more willing to find a calm way to do something. And Bones with Luke, because both the poor bastards get pulled into the other main character's plans.
Yes.
The other character.
Bones with Han, rather.
Yeah. So yeah.
I know. Sure. It's okay. It's okay.
I knew I wanted, but I can't go for it.
No, but I mean they're facing right across each other. We see them now. We see them now before our very eyes, as we see you today, viewers. Just to say we don't.
Alright, so Kirk and Luke. I'm also eating a chocolate bar when I'm doing this, so sorry about the muffle.
Good lord, this is a mukbang now. But Luke, he's also a pretty determined character.
Boy, you should be speaking for Star Trek. I'm a Star Trek.
Why can't we speak for both? This is a chill podcast. Let's speak for what we enjoy.
You got a point.
Let's just be chill. Let's talk about what we like.
Okay, continue then. I apologize.
Yes.
Went against my own rules.
Very well. Luke, he's in the first, even in episode 4 in the New Hope, in the very first Star Wars movie, he's still fairly determined. He's passionate about what he wants to do. He wants to go off the farm and join the academy so he can join the rebellion eventually, get the piloting skills.
He has a dream.
Yes, and he follows it through. He's being held back by
circumstance. He just doesn't do he skips the academy part.
Yeah, he becomes the hero of the whole galaxy. It's great. He's as soon when he gets the chance to join the Obi-Wan, he immediately takes it. Mm-hmm. He just goes and he starts doing things. He's very confident.
Shortly afterwards, he doesn't have a choice in the matter. So
yeah, he's less confident and less brash and less sort of sure of himself and foolhardy than Han. But he's
of course.
And then Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, he becomes more contemplative and he becomes wiser as he matures and gets more experiences.
By the time Jedi comes around, he's become a Jedi master.
A full proper Jedi.
Proper Jedi master.
I wouldn't go far as a master. I'd say
he's pretty close to it. I mean, the boy already... But here's the thing is, I'm one of the people that holds that by the time Jedi rolls around, he is not a Jedi, nor is he a Sith. I hold with the Grey Jedi believing. Because, how many Jedi know how to choke people? Exactly. Jedi don't use that Force choke ability.
Here's my problem with the Grey Jedi. Is that it completely it works in the context of the expanded universe stuff, but it does not work if you consider the themes and the philosophical ideas of the original trilogy. Which we'll get into later. I will be espousing.
That is the next section.
Yes, I will be espousing my ideas.
It'll be an hour and a half of its own.
Here's the point where I start turning this turns into a fucking philosophy essay.
Oh God.
And Clayton just sits there dumbfounded. Yes. the horrific ignoramus. What the fuck were we talking about? We got in this ginormous tangent. Right,
Luke maturing.
Yes, he matures, which is similar in sort of it's a kind of unrelated way to the way Kirk matures in the Star Trek movies. Mm-hmm. He himself becomes more wiser, more contemplative as he ages, but he still carries on that very brash, determined spirit of himself.
Mm-hmm. Luke always keeps even as he gets older. If you go expanded universe,
yes,
for a moment, anyways. After Jedi, I know we're going a little past the original series. I'm just throwing this out there into what is now considered to be false, anyways.
Yes, it's in Legends, quote unquote.
Yeah. Luke starts up his own academy.
Yeah.
To be fair, they do put that in the new universe too.
Yes, but they
it
just
doesn't
fuck
go
it
well.
up.
It doesn't go well.
It fucks up.
But anyways, the fact being is that he starts that, and he actually is a true master. In that point, if you follow some of the games, say like
Jedi Knight games,
Jedi Knight Academy especially, you see a fair bit of him in that. He has actually become a much more calm, a very solid-minded
he's
master.
Kind of like a mix between Yoda and Obi-Wan. He's got more of like the action of Obi-Wan and the contemplation and wisdom of Yoda.
Possibly access to a little bit of the insanity of Yoda too.
Yeah, the quirkiness
Crazy old
of Yoda.
Man.
Yeah.
But he has a lot more composure. That's the word I'm looking for.
He's gotten to the point where he's sort of like the last of the Jedi are gone, and he's started up his new ways, and he has fulfilled and succeeded all of them.
Basically.
It's a very messianic sort of story. He's a very messianic character.
I do like that. I do love that part of the EU because it didn't turn it. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not shitting on it. I do like the new movies too. I personally do like them. We'll get into that another day.
Yes. Well, with the franchise future legacy.
Exactly.
We'll talk about that with our last point.
So, but yeah, in that case, I feel that he actually had serious character development. Even if you take the new franchise version, he still has a fair amount of character development up to what he is, as best as they could do. So, yeah, I'm going to say that's my thing there, is that he is a fairly well-developed character. Now, let's go to the downsides of it. Starting off, yes, he's determined. Yes, he has a dream. He's also a whiny little bitch.
Now, here's why I
want to go to Toshi Station and get power converters. I also kind of made him sound like Seinfeld.
Yes, here's my
What's the deal with the power converters?
My comment on that is that, honestly, I never thought he felt whiny to me. To me, he feels like a teenager. He feels
whiny.
Yeah, he's like he's got like the good. He's confident and all that, but he's still like a teenager, and he feels still like a kid. Like he's got the immaturity that he has in the original Star Wars. There's a similar thing with Kirk in that he's not like he isn't as brash and as foolhardy as people make him out to be, like in the J.J. Abrams films, where he's just this fucking wild renegade that just does whatever the hell he wants. He's reasonably by the book. He's just very confident, and he knows what the hell he wants, and he's going to do it.
Yes, fair enough on that.
And that's kind of...
I think this should bring us around, now that we've talked about Luke, to Kirk.
Yes. That's what I speak about.
You were kind of going... You're kind of segueing? Segueing. I ruined your segue. I apologize. Anyways, Kirk, Captain James T. Kirk is... as the joke goes, he's the man that all the men want to be and all the women want to get with, kind of thing. Alien and otherwise.
Yes.
And he was supposed to basically be he's supposed to be like the spirit of adventure for the original
is like
series.
A 19th century swashbuckling hero.
He really is.
He's like a I don't know, like a Horatio Hornblower.
Fight all the bad guys and bed all the women.
And except thrown into like the 23rd century.
Exactly. Which is an odd thing if you think about it, because look at most of the other human types, anyways, like that, the Federation types, and you'll find that they're all a lot more rational or calm on certain things. He's out there being a fucking caveman, comparatively. Basically.
Like, he's not a perfect human being.
Oh, God, no.
I think that's kind of where the two characters are very different. Like, Kirk is more the everyman character, like, even... From the start to the end, he feels like a human being that you could possibly be. Like, oh yeah, I know. You
feel like there's some fallibility there.
Yes,
there's some serious fallibility, I think.
Yes, but with Luke,
I bring up the Kobayashi Maru?
Yes, with Luke, he starts off with like that kind of okay, like you say, he's whiny, he's immature, but then like he becomes he's basically Space Jesus at that point.
He does become a Space Jesus,
and he's the most powerful character in the entire universe.
But we have to look at it this way: is that they are written to be different characters. Luke is
they play into the themes of their own stories.
Exactly. Luke is meant to be the Skywalker that saves the universe or the galaxy or whatever.
He undergoes the complete hero's journey.
Kirk is meant to be the captain of the ship that goes and explores new systems. He'll have new what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. Experiences and such like that. Find new things like that. But he's still going to be Kirk.
Yes.
He's already become what he needs to be. He's already gone through that in his
He's
training.
already had his character arc, basically.
Yeah, he has had his character arc in his background, where, again, I'll bring up the Kobayashi Maru. That's like a big part of Kirk's past on how he figured out how to get past that. And it brings out to the point of... He like I say, it's now... He has gone past Luke's point, but didn't end up as a messiah. He became a functioning member of society.
He became like a good captain, a good admiral.
Exactly. He does become an admiral later, I guess, doesn't he?
Yeah, in the movies.
Yes, when he becomes old.
Yes, when he's an old man, then a bridge gets dropped on him.
Khan!
That wasn't even that movie. That was a whole different movie.
I'm still just saying Khan.
I knew
it had to be said at least once.
Oh, fair enough, fair enough. I feel in that case, I think we said, let's move on to Spock and Leia.
We've basically made the point. I'll just sum it up quickly.
Reiterate.
Luke is the upgrading hero story.
Yes.
Whereas Kirk is the continuing adventures.
Yes.
Basically. Just as they say in the thing, the continuing adventures of the Enterprise is the continuing adventures of Kirk. He's already reached a point where he's good. Now he's doing something with that stuff that he's learned and making it, just doing it.
Yes, he's taking his experiences that he's learned and he's improving the universe with them. And he's
basically, the only way to compare it to Luke would be after Luke, basically after Jedi.
Like right after Jedi for like a few years, but like before he becomes like super overpowered.
Basically, yeah.
Yep.
So anyways, yes, moving on. That was our main characters, and they have some little similarities, but mainly they are quite opposite.
They're different, but there's like it's a Venn diagram.
So bringing up the next ones is Spock, the super logical Vulcan, and Leia, the super sarcastic princess.
They're very, they're basically like the second, they're the right hands of the main characters essentially.
In a sense,
basically, but they're. Like, when you think of, like, the main characters, who do you think beside them? Like, it's gonna be Leia, usually, because she's, like, the main female lead.
For me, I always thought it was Han. That would be his right hand.
I'm in a different kind of way, I suppose. Leia's interesting, because she's, like...
Let's put it this way. They are the right hand when it comes to logic. When it coming to making a cool-headed decision. So...
Which is interesting, because Leia's also, like... She's the more calm of, like, all of them. She's the more decisive. She's had more leadership experience, despite, like... She is the same age as Luke, but she's got, like... She's a very different background.
She has to be the same age as
they're
his
twins.
Sister. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I don't think it was ever revealed that they were twins in the original
Spoiler
trilogy.
alert.
For a 40-year-old movie. Well, it'd be 30...
70s.
Well, you know, the movie was revealed their siblings was 1983, so it'd be a 36-year-old movie.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Anyways, so going, let's go first off with Leia. We're going with that. She is basically she starts off the kidnapped princess trope. That is just.
But then as soon as she gets rescued, she
literally immediately.
Yeah, like as soon,
first thing to do, they open the door. Snark, come.
Yes, it's like, aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper? And then
so you're right, you suck up, bitch. Hello, Family Guy.
And then she blasts open the garbage chute and she throws him down. She immediately takes charge. She is
not a Disney princess.
She is more similar to Kirk than Luke is.
She actually can be.
She's a leader. She's very calm, but she has like heart too. There's a lot of like emotion in her and stuff. But she is also like the most calm and logical and rational.
She has the ability to be such.
Yes,
where
like she is the entire leader of the rebellion. Like all of Skywalker, Luke is the general.
She's the charismatic leader.
Yes,
she's not the proper leader. At least not until she gets older, anyways. Because she has like generals and admirals that do that.
Though whenever she's on screen, like especially in like A New Hope, or Empire Strikes Back, or Return of the Jedi, unless like at the very end, like Return of the Jedi with like Mon Mothma or Admiral Akbar on screen, they're always answering to Leia. I knew you were gonna make it. I was wondering how many Star Wars memes you were gonna force into this.
Sorry, keep going. I keep derailing you.
Yes. Like, they always listen to Leia. Leia's the one they listen to.
Well, yeah. I'm trying to figure out what the heck is that term there. It's not the charismatic leader. It's a term for...
Figurehead?
Not really, no. There's a term for... It's like a something leader, and it's a... what the hell is it? It's a term for the leader that more... Yes, they can lead. They lead a battle. They can lead battle and stuff. But they are there to be the face of hope, basically.
I don't know. I do not know the term that you're thinking of.
Oh, that is pissing me off.
All right. Well, tell us about Spock, sir. Tell us about how
we
different
have
the characters are.
Spock. I don't even know if they ever say his last name. Do they?
I don't think he has a last name.
Do Vulcans have last names?
I don't know. We'll find out.
No, we won't.
No, we won't. We're gonna forget to Google this in an hour when we're done.
I wanted to say James T. Spock. Yeah,
James T. Spock is his last name.
Anyway, so Spock is part of the Vulcan, who are the super logical beings. They train themselves from birth to be logical and to spurn all Well, basically anything that Kirk does. Everything that Kirk does in his regular everyday life.
Opposite.
He is, and that is why they put him that way. He is the perfect foil to everybody.
Yes.
Kirk's like, let's destroy this ship. Hold on a second,
In
Captain.
terms of, like, both in-universe, he's the perfect foil, and out-of-universe. Like, from every way, he is the perfect foil for Kirk.
Where he lacks the spirit of Leia, he does still have the heart.
Yes.
He still has heart because he is actually part human.
Yes.
He is not full Vulcan. He is part human, and I think, if I remember correctly, he wrestled with that a lot when he was a kid.
Yes.
Learning to do the whole thing. So he can lose his cool at times.
Yes.
But it does not happen much.
No.
So, yeah, and I don't know. He's the perfect advisor, though, being that... The thing is, you need a good advisor who can stay calm and rational.
Which is similar to what Leia has with Luke, because she can advise him in his decisions, and, she's the heart and the brains.
True.
Like, Luke is like everything. Like, he's the muscle.
Luke
he's
is the main character that has the balanced stats.
Yes.
We'll put it that way.
Yes, but while Leia is the heart and the brains of everything.
Basically. So yeah, I don't know much else to say on them. The next one's going to be interesting.
I think they're Leia and Spock are
they have a
weird,
lot of differences,
but there's a similarity in like role and like.
Some core tendencies are very same.
Yeah.
Again, heart is the major part for those two there. And I think that there's a lot in that crew on the Enterprise that would maybe lose a lot of morale if Spock was not around. I mean,
like when he fucking died in Star Trek 2.
How badly did it hit everybody on the ship?
It hurt my feelings, Clayton.
Possibly even more so than if Kirk died. I'm just going to put that out there.
Honestly, because it's kind of like Spock and Leia both have this kind of like feel. They both feel invulnerable. Like they're very like they are. There's always this feeling that they know exactly what the hell they're doing.
Exactly. They radiate an aura of leadership to the point where they like you said, they feel like they can do no wrong. And when they die, it hits you hard. And they both have died.
Yes.
Technically.
Yes.
Well, they haven't really put it into the movie yet that she's died, but close enough. We know she's gonna be dead. Her fucking actress is dead.
Yes.
So.
I mean, Spock died in both the J.J. Abrams movies and in
2.
Yes, though they revised him, but still.
That was the whole idea of the Genesis machine. Genesis.
But yeah, it kind of feels like if Kirk died, everyone would be like,
oh shit, that's not good.
Like,
well, get a new captain.
It's like, you kind of, like, they'd feel bad, but they're like...
You're going to get so much hate on that. We will get a lot of hate on that. I know we will, because there are some serious adamant Kirk supporters out there.
I love Kirk, I'm going to be honest, but I think that, because they feel... I think there is this feeling that, like, if he dies doing... Like, he knew it was the right thing to do.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, he's good, and he knows that we want to move on.
And Kirk is very much the blaze of glory type to go. So it'll be quite a show when he goes to...
Yes. But Spock is he's confident, like he has that, he's kind of like the general.
Yeah.
He's kind of like in like the back of the line, and like Leia, they're both like back of the line kind of guys, and they're like they can like have like an overview sort of thing where Luke is like in the trenches, same with Kirk.
Yeah. All right, so let's. I think we've gotten those ones down. Let's go move on to the last duo.
Me and Clayton,
basically. Bones, or Dr. Hank McCoy, or Leonard McCoy. Hank McCoy is a fucking beast, isn't he? Yes. Hey, Leonard McCoy.
Anyways,
damn it, Jim! I'm a doctor, not a mutant. And of course, Han Solo.
Yes.
Now, let's start with Han. Han has had a rocky childhood. He moved up from being basically a slum child and moving up into things.
Though, to be fair, if we're just talking about...
I have knowledge of this from both books and from the movie.
Right, I suppose in the books they had that too.
In the books they have a similar ideal, but nowhere near this quite the same as the movie. The movie did its own thing. Talking, of course, about Solo. Duh.
Yeah.
But Han is, like, the ultimate... What's the word I'm looking for? He's a solo act.
Yes.
Well, okay,
he's
a duo.
Solo.
He's a duo. He's Han Solo, as they named him. That one was kind of dumb.
But let's move on.
I'll get past that.
We'll talk about that.
Even with Chewie at his side, he still kind of does his own thing.
Even with Chewie, it's just like it's him and Chewie. Yeah.
He almost, it's to the point where him and Chewie are almost one being, in a sense. Because they've
worked together for so long. They're like, they've got, they're old friends by the time the movies roll around, and there's a connection.
I think that was one thing I did like about the Solo movie, is that they did a really good job with the connection between those two. So I definitely give it that. He is an adventurer first and foremost, but and he's a smuggler even more so,
Yes.
I suppose, actually. And here's the funny thing, though, is like unlike everybody else in his trade, he has a conscience, and he always
Yeah.
has had a conscience. No matter how much he's tried to deny
Yes,
it.
that's
I'm a horrible person, but you're not.
It's so funny because like the original character arc in Star Wars is that I'm a shady dude and I'm not a good person, and that's like, oh, he really is a good person. It's just kind of like the feeling that he's come around.
Yes.
Like his experience with these characters, but then the Solo movie, like it's kind of because your interpretations of the original movies get shaded over by like the new editions.
If I remember correctly in the book, now there is a trilogy. I've only read the first one, but I can still basically everything that happened in the movie could be condensed along with that book one.
Yeah.
So I'm just going with that there. And I remember correctly, if I remember correctly, he actually is kind of like that there too. He still can't watch people suffer or be in a bad situation without helping them. He hates himself for it sometimes, but
he's a nice guy.
he's a bit at war with himself.
Yes. He's trying to put people at arm's length.
And they just keep coming closer.
Yes.
He's like, damn it, stay back.
Stop! I'm trying to be edgy here. Stop it.
Kind of.
Yeah. Well, and he's like a realistic equivalent of like an edgy 14-year-old trying to be all emo, and everyone's just like, yeah, come on, let's go let's hang out after school. No, I'm trying to hang out with me and my dog in our weed van.
But much like that same edgy teenager, generally, if you do it right, and they did, he generally warms up to the characters and comes along with. I mean, think about New Hope.
Yes.
In there, he literally, when everybody was suiting up to go off to the Death Star, he was grabbing his wages and flying off.
Yeah, he's like, I'm out of
It's
here.
like, so I guess you, and what's that Luke says, guess you got what you wanted, now you're gonna just leave? Yeah, that's right, kind of thing. I'm a bad guy. Fuck you. I'm gonna go. But then what happens at the very last minute?
He's like, God damn it, I gotta come back.
He came back and blasted Vader's ship out of the way, and like he just can't get away from that mindset. I guess is he knows he has too strong of a conscience. And, I don't know, maybe Chewie also is like, we really should go back.
Chewie is kind of like the heart. Chewie's like the heart. He's like the softer half of as Han's like the bronze.
He's the brawn and the heart, basically. The soul, sorry. The brawn and the soul and choose the heart. Oh, and I might say, before we move on to Bones, Han shot first.
He did, yes.
Take that!
Excuse me, George Lucas?
Shot first? George Lucas shot first.
Yeah, George Lucas shot and killed a man in Mississauga back in 1989. Nobody else is aware of this.
Bringing you the real news. Now let's move on to the ever-suffering doctor of the USS Enterprise.
Yes,
Dr. McCoy. Bones.
They're both very passionate characters. There's a lot of times where when Spock is like, we have to make the cold, rational choice, and Kirk's name of following him, Jim's like, what the fuck is wrong with you guys? We gotta be human. We're human beings here. What's wrong with you? And he's got the cynicism of Han too.
Mm-hmm. And it kind of brings a counterbalance, because same with Spock. I mean, Kirk is a very malleable person in mind, and that might be due to things in his past and stuff like that. He starts off with a headstrong view, but as soon as that gets swatted down by Spock's logic, then he immediately is like, well, shit.
He's headstrong, but he's not like stubborn. He's willing to take advice. He's
which actually is what could make him a good captain.
Yes, that's why he is a good captain.
But there are times that he will follow Spock blindly, and even Spock is not infallible.
No, God, no.
No, even him, because looking at the world from a realm of cold logic is still only looking at it from one corner.
Which a number of episodes have proved that sometimes Spock fucks up because he's looking at the wrong things the wrong way.
Which is where Bones comes in. Bones is the true heart of the Enterprise.
Oh, absolutely.
So I said that about Spock. I'm sorry, Spock is the soul.
Yes.
But Bones is the true heart of the Enterprise.
Yes. He's the emotional core of the ship.
He represents. Okay, to counterbalance Spock's Vulcan logic, he represents the human heart.
Yes.
And a brain, that's basically brain versus heart, right there. With Kirk being the body.
Yes.
It just works out quite well. We're getting a damn good allegory out of this, aren't we?
Look at this. Look at us doing good.
But going from that, he is basically the, I don't want to say the devil on the shoulder to the angel. It's not angel and devil. It's logic and heart.
Yes.
It really is. And he is the counterbalance, because sometimes...
In talking in like Shin Megami Tensei terms, it's law and chaos.
There you go. Literally, yeah. Law is logic and chaos is heart. And neither of them are bad.
Just
per se.
Yeah, sometimes you need one, sometimes you need another.
Laws too, I suppose.
Lawful and chaotic, yeah.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with either lawful or chaotic inherently. They can both go down bad and good paths. And which is why they need to balance each other out. Bones' heart just sometimes gets them into trouble too.
Yes.
Which takes Spock's logic to settle him back down. So they are a very good counterbalance to work off of Kirk. Work with Kirk, I should say. So I don't know. They're both they're actually quite both complicated characters too.
I'd say that
I've said a lot. You should say something.
There's a similar dynamic, I think, in terms of both casts, where the three characters round each other out.
Yeah.
Like each one complements each other, and so that if one was missing, you'd be missing a key function of a full being. If I can speak, if I can speak in a very abstract sort of way.
Now, I want to say one main thing though, going off of that, is that remember how we said before that Kirk is all just on his journey after his origin story, whereas Luke is going through his origin story. Here's the thing. Kirk is staled right there. All three of them are. The idea being is that they need each other to balance all three. Balance three. And if you remove one of them, it's going to screw the balance up. Whereas down the road...
all the episodes where Kirk gets kidnapped or something, or where Spock gets his brain taken away by all the women... That was a weird episode.
But now let's take that and flip it around to Star Wars. Star Wars, take Empire Strikes Back, and Han is taken out of the picture. And then it's just Luke and Leia. And what do you have? Luke is holding up his end, trying to fight his father and going there, and Leia actually goes off and does a bunch of stuff in between the two the two movies, and becomes plays as a bounty hunter and stuff like that. They have found a way to continue going on their own without the support of the other ones, other two, to survive.
I think there is also an element like that in the way the cast is composed, because Star Trek, they're the other characters in the Enterprise. There's Uhura, and there's Chekhov, and there's Scotty and all them. There's everybody, but they're less important than Kirk, Spock, and Bones.
Yeah,
those are they're the trifecta main.
Well, it's
characters.
just like in Star Wars, you have Chewie, you have 3PO and R2 in those. And to be fair, R2 is technically the most important character because he's in every single movie.
Yes. Well, not every movie. He wasn't
in every movie.
He wasn't in Solo.
Well, he's in every single main movie. Is what I'm saying. I'm not talking about the spin-offs.
Okay.
But yeah, but
there's more
there
are other characters in Star Wars that can back up the role of Han.
Exactly.
Like Lando.
Even just Chewie on his own. Or Lando, actually, Lando makes it, that brings up a good point, actually, because Lando basically takes his place as the scoundrel character.
During the point...
To be fair, Lando is nowhere near quite the same as him.
They're a very different type of scoundrel.
But he still filled the slot in the absence, basically.
Yes. Considering they...
You know what, that brought a good point, that kind of countered me.
Considering that they were thinking of getting rid of Harrison Ford in between movies.
Harrison Ford was thinking of getting rid of Harrison Ford.
He's been wanting to get go since Empire, honestly.
He did not expect it to go past the original. No, none of them did.
None of them, no.
So, going from that, I'd say that I would still say the Star Wars ones can still be a bit more independent than the Star Trek ones. The Star Trek ones, but to be fair, also the Star Trek ones are always within constant contact of each other generally because they all live on the same ship.
Or unless it's times where an alien interferes, or one goes to do something else, or one's held hostage or something like that. In which case they're working to reconnect. But
there is still the connection with the Star Wars ones, like those ones, because even they're a little more trusting, I guess is the thing. They can be apart from each other, but still know the other two are going to support them.
Yes.
They know that they'll be there to help them if they need it, kind of thing. So yeah. I think we've covered the characters pretty well on that.
So
we went into the half hour, by the way.
This might be another hour. So if we could sum up, which cast would you say you prefer?
I honestly you know what? I'm gonna go you one better. Which one do we connect with better?
That is the thing. It's awesome because they're very different dynamics. It's kind of which.
And for my part, I connect with the Star Wars cast better. I like the idea of the fact that they can be fiercely independent, but still have friends to go to if they need help. I'm a very independent person if I can't at least try to be. Anyways.
I agree with you. And I connected more with the Star Trek characters. I just felt, there's a great camaraderie there. There's a feeling of like war buddies. Like they may not always like each other, they may not always agree with each other, but they'll be there for each other because they're coworkers and they work hard together. And
fair enough. You know, I can understand.
They're very like they're similar dynamics, but they all feel very different. Like the Star Wars cast, they feel like friends. Yes. They feel like friends who are working together towards a common goal. But in the Star Trek cast, it feels like coworkers who have become friends.
Basically.
That's how I describe it.
Oh, that's understandable. That's a very good reasoning.
And see, we've gotten along very, very nicely.
Yes.
All right.
Next up, story and themes. Time for both of us to die.
So,
story and themes. So we're going to start off story. The storyline for the original series was literally just, I mean, there's lots of small stories.
Yes.
But it literally was a case of to boldly go where no one has gone before.
Yes.
Their job, the story literally was take ship, monster of the week, or some other thing like that.
It's a thing that you've never seen before. It is a thing.
A new planet, stuff to do.
It is the craziest science fiction stuff that you can possibly imagine.
And there is some
the
plus
highest
to that.
end ideas, yeah.
Because, and I think I brought something similar to this, like this up in the first one we did with Sailor Moon and all that, is that Star Trek reminds me a lot, in its own way, of the old serials, the old sci-fi serials you would find on radios, casts, and stuff like that. And because it would take you out on outlandish adventures with crazy-looking creatures and stuff like that. And that's the soul of sci-fi right there.
Which is interesting. That kind of inspired Star Wars a lot, too.
Exactly, and that's actually kind of its own thing. But if you look at Star Wars, you actually coined this yourself. I'm sure somebody else did.
Probably.
It's less sci-fi and sci-fantasy.
Yes, I've
heard
science
fantasy because you have more unknown variables that can't be really done by science.
Like because
the Force being the biggest one.
Basically it's space magic.
It's space magic. And I mean, sure, you got the technology, like everything to do with how the lightsabers work and the blasters work. That's all technology.
Yeah, but it's like the science in Star Trek. The science is the focus.
Yes.
Like there's a lot of technical babble, and this is if we do this thing, we modulate this thing, this will work. In Star Wars, the science is just like an excuse for cool things to happen.
Yeah, basically.
Like it doesn't matter how the blasters work. It looks cool.
The difference being is that, and this is an odd way of doing it, because the idea of Star Trek should have been like continuing epic adventures into new places. The one that becomes more of an epic adventure, honestly, is Star Wars, because it does focus less on techno-babble and stuff like that, although 3PO tries sometimes, but he fails. And the fact being is you go in there, and you're going in like you would into a good fantasy story like that. Wizards and Warriors, it's like, let's firebolt, or stuff like that, and something like
Star Trek, it's a serial. It's a continuing adventures of the Enterprise as they have their things, and they do stuff.
Exactly.
But Star Wars is a single continuous story over the course of 3 movies.
True.
They're very different, and they're attempting to do different things.
Exactly. They're trying to go different directions with it. There are still, like you said yourself, the serials themselves, even, basically, those kinds of things affected all sci-fi that we know today. That's where they came from. You have things that came out like Battlestar Galactica and other things like that. Even Firefly, I bet. Especially because it has a very interesting Western theme to it. That's for another day, though.
Yes.
After I've watched the series, oh god, I just outed myself on something.
I haven't either, to be fair.
I own it. We need to watch it.
There we go.
It's literally 1 season.
How many episodes is it? Like 6 or 7?
No, there's more than that.
I thought they didn't even release. I thought
we're getting off topic.
Whatever. Continue.
What? Basically, I think we can cut the story thing down now. We've gone on enough on that. Is to the fact that they are very different stories. They are meant to go different ways. And, like you say, I think sci-fantasy would really be the best way to describe Star Wars, because it just has too many unknown variables that they're not willing to explain, because it's magic.
Yes, like all, like, the...
Whereas,
when weird, seemingly unexplained stuff happens in Star Trek, like the clouds of, like, energy or whatever...
It's ionized gases, and it's made of this.
They explain this. They don't say, we don't understand it. We'll never understand it. They don't, or they don't just try and, like, wave it off, it's energy, whatever. They try and, like, explain what the hell it is.
Yeah, basically. But see, the thing is, they both work. Because in Star Wars, we don't need to be told what these things are.
Because that's, like, the whole point of the story.
We know it works.
Yes.
And it happens. So
it's entirely tangential to the point of the story because it's the hero's journey. That is the entire point of Star Wars. It is the monomyth from start to finish. George Lucas is so heavily inspired by Joseph Campbell, and I would highly recommend reading the book of Hero of a Thousand Faces if you haven't, because it feels like Young had a fucking acid trip. It's weird. Like, it is a really, really weird, symbolically heavy book, and it's great.
Whereas Star Trek is the continuing adventures.
Yeah,
and
it's just trying for more humble things.
It's trying for more. It's trying to bring a slight tad of realism to its sci-fi by making you believe, hey, look at this. This thing exists in real life, and this is what this is made of. Boom. Guess what? It's more realistic now.
And that's one of the themes of Star Trek is the advances of technology and all that sort of thing, and where technology is going, where humanity will go in the future, and how we'll have to deal with new things and new experiences. It's stuff that like applies like now, and in like it's stuff that currently applies and will also apply in the future. But Star Wars is it's the monomyth. It attempts more all-encompassing themes. It's stuff that will always be relevant about the things...
Good versus evil and all
Good
that
versus
kind of
evil and overcoming strength and all that. It's eternal themes that are deeply resonate in mankind's subconscious.
And whereas the theme basically for Star Trek is basically mankind's eternal willingness to venture. I don't think it's the willpower basically.
Yes.
It's mankind's will to continue.
Yes. Star Trek is about how mankind can succeed and as well as how it can fail, and how it can like grow as like a species. But Star Wars is like how the individual can grow and succeed and evolve, and how it fails. They're just doing so very different things. But yeah.
But neither of them are wrong.
No.
They're both very good for their situation.
Yes, that's the thing.
I think we've gone over story and theme enough on that.
We've also even touched a little bit on science fiction, science fantasy.
So, okay, do you want to keep that? I think we've pretty much covered the science fiction.
I think we've basically covered that as well. Do you have any particular preference in those regards yourself?
It's a hard one to do because I have no real hatreds either way. I like both of them for what they are. And so that makes it kind of hard to choose one.
Yeah.
But if I am pressed to choose one, it's still going to be Star Wars. I like the monomyth kind of thing, like you say. And I just like I think there's a lot of people like the enduring story of the hero overcoming evil and such like that. It's ubiquitous. You can't help but love that because you want to be you. You want to be that hero that does the thing.
The oldest work of literature in the world, the Epic of Gilgamesh, surviving anyways, follows the hero's journey. The hero's journey will be with us until the end of time, and it will never die.
How about you?
But I do actually agree with you that in terms of themes, I think Star Wars is... At least the original trilogy. I'll talk about maybe when we talk about the future.
One day we'll do the other ones.
When we talk about the future and the legacy, just a little bit. I think it's an incredibly enduring theme, and I enjoy the classics. I enjoy anthropology and cultural anthropology, and I enjoy psychology and all that sort of thing. And I if I could find a perfect blend of Star Trek's Monster of the Week serial sort of thing with like the overarching sort of myth of Star Wars, that'd be perfect.
Here's the thing. I just want to posit this here.
Good.
By the way, you're saying Star Wars along with me on that?
I would agree with you for like in terms of themes, but in terms of story, I'd say Star Trek.
Okay.
So I'm split. Neither of them are bad.
You're
They're both
copping
great.
out, are you?
Yes.
Okay. Fair enough. Now, I want to posit this fact, is that I feel like, and actually this might have already happened, because there are some mainly animated series to do in the Star Wars universe.
Yes.
I feel like even if you didn't have the wordiness and the whole computer lingo, everything like that going on with that, you could still do pretty much all the stories in Star Trek with Star Wars. It wouldn't be as scientifically based, but you could still pull off a lot of them there. They just have different outcomes, of course, because different people are going after
like, you know, like when there's like a big cloud gaseous monster or something, it would turn out to be like a villain, then Luke would have to slay it or like overcome it.
It's a dark force cloud, basically.
Yeah, it would be very, very...
It would still be doable.
Yes. However, I don't think that Star Wars stories could generally be done in Star Trek.
But there is no, Star Wars stories probably could not be done in Star Trek because the whole idea of the Federation kind of denies the whole hero thing like that. Everybody is part of the Federation, everyone's a hero kind of thing.
Yeah, and there's too much of a conflict there.
Yeah.
with like.
Ironically, I think there is more war in Star Trek than there is in Star Wars.
I would disagree with you on that. There's a fair bit of war in Star Trek.
Star Wars, you mean?
But in Star Trek, but
Star Trek.
Star Wars has constant war. They are constantly at war with people.
I suppose that's true.
Star
Trek has varied wars that are with
like in the original series, they're kind of like a cold war with the Vulcans.
They're very the Klingons.
Yes,
they're very varied in their wars. They keep it interesting.
Yes, and like in Star Wars, especially, you go through wars with like billions and billions of casualties because there's like Jedi running around flinging powers and planets being destroyed,
slashing things down.
Yeah, like
lightsabers.
I would rather live in.
Imagine how a lightsaber would go over in the Star Trek universe.
I think Scotty would be very excited to look at it.
Oh, of course he would.
He'd be so excited. But
Bones would be fascinated by the fact that it cauterizes the wound immediately.
I think that is, yeah, he'd probably be quite interested in that. The medical possibilities there.
Oh yeah, of course.
He's like, damn it, Jim, don't you understand the possibilities here? And
you kind of sounded like you gave a dash of Scotty to his accent.
They're both the best characters.
But I think we've rambled enough. Let's move on to the final part there of franchise future plus the legacy, of course, which is basically the same thing.
Yes.
Pardon me.
I would like to make a mention, if I can. I'd like to start with Star Wars for this one.
Sure. We seem to have been doing that with all of them anyway, so.
Yeah, I feel that Star Wars has gotten the shorter shaft in this department in a very peculiar way. And you might not agree with me. This might be the case.
I'll hear you out and then I'll say my part.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I just feel that Star Wars has been far, far more milked to death than Star Trek has. The original series, Star Trek, you didn't get a movie until 10 years after the original. The original series was canceled after 3 seasons. It was more like a cult classic than anything. 10 years later, you finally get a movie, and then you start getting another series. Things start to pick up after quite a lot of time. You don't really get much success until, like, the 80s, really. With, like, the next generation, you start getting some video games and comics and some of the books and stuff.
Exactly.
With Star Wars, it is a gigantic, monumental success that changes the landscape of filmmaking forever.
It kind of did.
Like, not just science fiction, because Star Trek is a ginormous influence in terms of science fiction.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Star Wars is a ginormous influence in terms of everything. Like, in terms of Western culture. You cannot escape Star Wars.
Even certain other cultures. I mean, don't forget he went off of like Kurosawa films for certain things. That's Japanese culture. So you got some Eastern culture in there as well. Like, so it is very far-reaching.
And then immediately you have games, you have books, you have TV shows, you have those shitty Ewok movies. Like,
there was an Ewok TV show.
Yes,
there's also a Droids TV show.
Yes, you have so much. Like, it immediately just starts getting milked within a few years, and then 16 years after the last movie, you get 3 more movies in the trilogy, and you get hundreds of more books and games and comics and TV series and everything. Everything just starts
after the new trilogy, like the prequel trilogy happened.
Is when things
it really ramped up.
Yeah.
You started getting there was the series, there was the
original Clone Wars series.
So it started with a movie. It was a Clone Wars movie, cartoon movie, and then it turned into a series for multiple seasons.
Oh, I was thinking of the original.
I'm not talking about the actual Clone Wars movie. I'm talking about the cartoon Clone Wars movie.
Yeah, there's a cartoon, but before that one.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about the movie started. The Clone Wars movie have a cartoon.
Yes, there's the original.
And then the show happened afterwards.
No, there's a different cartoon. There's 2 Clone Wars cartoon series.
The one I'm thinking of was the CGI one.
That's no, the one I was thinking. One is hand drawn animation.
Like the series was.
Yes.
Okay, well, I don't think either of them are hand drawn. They're probably done by computer nowadays.
It was by the same guy who did Samurai Jack.
Huh. Yeah, that's what the same style they used for the series.
Yeah,
similar, anyways.
Kind
of more angular
Gendy Tarkovsky. Style? Yeah, fairly, but it wasn't a movie or anything. It was like short, like 3 or 4 minute episodes that got bundled into series.
Oh, okay, so they just made little shorts. I did not know about that.
It's
the one I'm thinking of though that went with it.
Yeah,
is
the full
CGI,
Clone Wars series. Yeah,
the CGI cartoon movie, and then the series afterwards that came from it. So, and then that went into what's called Star Wars Rebels, and that is a perfect move across because one of the characters, Ahsoka, from there is in that as well.
And then there's also Star Wars Resistance, which takes place in the sequel.
Came out.
Yes, that came out more recently.
Yeah.
And then you have tons...
I watched the first episode of that. It's not actually that bad from what I've seen.
I don't believe you, but okay.
I'll have to show it to you.
And then, Star Wars, 2005 is when the last prequel movie comes out, and things start to die down a little bit.
Exactly.
But then there's games, but there's still like tons of games and comics and books still being made. And then Disney buys the franchise in like 2010 or whenever the hell it was, 2012,
2010 or
somewhere in that period. And then every year they start pumping out movies, they start pumping out a couple more games, they start pumping out books. Like it has been from the beginning. Star Wars has been milked to death,
and yet it's still got a massive following. Even after Disney took it, it did take a hit on people because they did not like the idea that Disney had it. They were worried it was going to mess things up.
And they did.
I'm one of the people that doesn't believe they did. Yes, the biggest thing I will say they messed up is I really don't think they should have taken away the expanded universe. That was that was years of work done by multiple people, multiple authors, multiple
you
writers.
can still enjoy it. It's just not canon anymore.
Yes, well, here's the thing. I'm going to put it out there now.
All right, go ahead. Yeah.
Is the way I see it is why can it not be real? And that this universe in the movies, the Disney movies, is not an alternate timeline where it's skewed.
Or that the Legends is the alternate timeline because this is like their main stuff.
I still call that these ones are the alternate because that one there is way too... What's the word I'm looking for? Is way too established. Expanded universe is way too established. There's way too much more there than there is here. Yes. Of course, give it time, this will probably gain lots too.
Oh, probably.
But...
and that's... my thing is that, like...
And that's why I say that you should be completely comfortable going along with Expanded Universe. Don't let Disney decide it for you.
when I was younger and I first heard they were decanonizing the Expanded Universe, I was not a fan, but I understood the move because you want to displace the old stuff.
Oh, they wanted to make their own thing, of course.
Yeah, they wanted to be able to put their new stories, their own stuff. But from the very beginning, like... in my opinion, as we're talking about themes, I think the only things that have actually been able to capture the original feeling, the original themes and ideas of Star Wars have been the original trilogy. Everything else has been an attempt has been a cheap cash grab in order to cash in on lightsabers and stormtroopers and droids and Luke Skywalker and Han Solo. It has been the iconography and the action and the planet names more so than anything really substantial.
Fair enough. I can understand where you're coming from. But, I mean, it isn't to say that there isn't already an insane following to go with Star Trek as well.
Yes, that's...
And they're possibly crazier than the Star Wars one. Trekkies, they're called. Yes. I don't think they like it, but...
Trekkers is apparently what they prefer, or at least some
of them. Do they really?
I don't know.
Interesting.
I don't friggin' know. But
learning new things today.
But Star Wars, it just seems to me like... even the original trilogy was not made to sell toys, even anywhere near as much as the prequel trilogy was. Like, the prequel trilogy, the entire fucking reason for its being was to sell toys. Was to sell toys and for George Lucas to make expensive CGI scenes and sit in a chair and drink coffee all day.
But the question brings it, like, how often do you see Star Trek toys? They exist. I've seen them.
They're just not as common.
Usually it's always the phaser guns and stuff like that. But yeah, you don't see it anywhere near as often because there's really not as much to work with. Maybe there's the toy sets, like having the ship and the little characters and stuff. That's a good way to go with that, like the action figures and things like that. But at the same point, is it really made for kids?
No, because I'd say it's like a young adult sort of audience, or like
young adult to adult.
Yeah, because it feels, when you watch the original, it feels like a show for adults.
There's still a sense of wonder.
Like, kids can certainly enjoy it. Like teenagers, I'd say, would enjoy that. Like, it's complex ideas, but not like really too complex. Like, like you're not reading fucking James Joyce or anything. It's stuff that's fairly marketable. Like, it's not too difficult, but you're still getting interesting, deep, thoughtful ideas.
Yes. Whereas with Star Wars,
it's like a family film.
It has a family picture.
Yes.
But it has enough sense of heart and spirit to it and adventure and stuff that a kid even can get into the stuff there. Even on the slower parts, they can take a second and then they get back into the battle.
It's an all ages picture.
It really is.
It's very different audiences as well, and I think that's one of the reasons too why Star Wars is milked so much harder. Because
it's easier to.
Yeah, it appeals to so many more people, just on a fundamental level. Star Trek, conversely, and like I said, it barely got very popular until like the early 90s, like early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, sort of in that period when you had like Deep Space Nine and Voyager and Enterprise, like all on generally around the same period of time.
No, Deep Space Nine was around the same time as Next Gen.
Yes, but
chronologically speaking too. But
they crossed over with Voyager as well, as far as I'm aware.
I No, I think that Voyager crossed over with Next Gen because they had Riker on an episode.
Well, either way, there is like connections there.
But it doesn't really work very well because Voyager, when they cross over, it's literally do something with some sort of wormhole or time warp happening. Yeah. So it's not. You can't really say it's happening at the same time.
But
kind of thing. And Enterprise takes place even before the original series. So yeah, it's hard to judge on that one there. And then we have let's see, and then we somehow gone even further back.
Yeah.
Before Enterprise. This new series.
No, it's actually it's just before the original series.
Oh,
it is after. Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay, I did not know that.
It's like 10 years before the original series.
I thought I'd read that it was like before even Enterprise. So
no.
Okay, it's interesting. So okay, I'll take that one back. Fair enough.
Star Trek has just there's been less stuff going on with Star Trek generally. There's only been like a brief window of time in like the 80s and 90s where it was fairly popular, and then like after I believe Enterprise is the last series before Discovery.
Yes, I think so.
And then it ended, and for a long time there was nothing Star Trek. Basically, just went into dormancy.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it be like occasional like comics or books or whatever. And then there was the J.J. Abrams films that kind of revitalized interest a little bit. And then Discovery came out a little bit, and then that's kind of been like seems to have been flagging off as well. Same with the J.J. Abrams films, like, but with each one of them, generally, I would say the only ones that really don't like fulfill the same spirit and message of the original Star Trek series are probably like the first two J.J. Abrams films certainly don't, in my opinion. I think they're far too like conventional action flicks.
They were trying to just reboot the thing, so the first one is a complete reboot of how everything started.
Yeah.
The second one,
it's irritating.
The second one they had to bring in Khan, so
because of course they've run out of ideas by the second one. The third one isn't too bad. It actually feels like a bigger budget Star Trek episode. Like
at that point, I stopped caring, so I didn't really like it that much.
I actually liked the third one.
They lost me.
It's the only one I've actually watched in full, and I quite enjoyed it.
Fair enough.
And Discovery as well, from what little I've seen and from what else I've heard, completely does not seem to understand anything about Star Trek. It seems to misunderstand Star Trek worse almost than the Star Wars sequels do. Like, it's dark and grungy, and it's full of misery, and it's very hopeless, and nobody's, like... There's none of that best of humanity exploratory
This is supposed to be a utopian society that we're flying spaceships around in.
And yet it's... yeah, it's this, like... It's
well, I suppose you could give... I can't believe I'm actually trying to defend this.
Oh, God.
But I suppose if you were to look at it, you have to think about the fact that we see the idealist side of it. We've been seeing captains who lead exploration crews and such like that, or running a space station, which is kind of mundane comparatively to things. But this is supposed to be a crew that's basically mired right in the middle of the dirtiest part of war.
Well, sure.
Back before they had a lot of their utopic designs and fancy stuff.
It's only 10 years before the original series, though.
Even the original series was still missing some pretty fancy technology.
Fair enough.
So, like, even before that, I can kind of understand it to a bit, but can I accept it? Not really.
That's kind of my thing, is they could have chose to do like a fun exploratory another Star Trek series, because it's been a while since.
And what do? They get an angry black woman who just hates everybody.
It's such who's now Spock's stepsister.
Oh God!
It's so like why would you choose to do this deliberately? Because it's not like with Star Wars, they just want to make money. They don't give a shit. They just want to. Here's Luke. Here's Han. Here's Leia. Go. Here's your lightsabers. Here's the guy in Darth Vader helmet. Who gives a shit? Take my fucking money. Give me your fucking money, you children. Like, that's all they care about. But Star Trek, like, it's never been like that. It's been a big science fiction thing and like kind of a pop culture thing, but nowhere near as big as Star Wars.
Yeah.
They could have chosen to do something like fun and exploratory, like the Seth MacFarlane series, The Orville did.
Yes, which I highly recommend as a thing. There's even some people who say it's the proper spiritual successor to the Star Trek series.
It feels more Star Trek than Discovery does.
From what you've seen, anyways.
Yes.
There is a tad more humor to it, but it's a Seth MacFarlane show.
Yes.
You have to expect a little bit out of that.
I think that's the one criticism I could probably levy against the show.
But I can nullify that by saying that most of the humor is very well placed and works in character for what's going on. You can kind of stick the captain as being kind of the more...
he's a straighter man than the rest of the cast.
He's a bit more of a straight. He's the straight man to the rest of what happens around there, and he's very much a well, how do we put this? He's a bit of a schmo.
Yeah,
comparatively,
yes.
compared to other captains, not Starfleet, but
Yes, because
other captains out there. He's a bit of a schmo. He's not the highest quality.
No, that's the interesting
but
thing.
He tries.
If we can go on a small tangent about the Orville. That's the interesting thing about the series is that none of them, like in Star Trek, they're all, like in the original, they're all pretty good at their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're actually competent people, but in Orville, a lot of them are just schmucks.
Yeah.
They're like mediocre at their jobs. They're just barely.
For the love of God, and I
by.
went into this before when we were talking about. I don't know how we came into the Orville.
I don't remember originally.
But the fact being is that his frigging first officer is his ex-wife.
Yes.
So that's got lots of story stuff to do with it on that thing, and there is actually some story. They expand on that.
Yeah.
But it's good to see it because it basically becomes the crew of ne'er-do-wells and also Rands and all those kinds of things that become, proper at their job. They're still what they are, but they still make it work. They work together pretty well.
Which feels like Star Trek.
Yeah. Hell, I almost can feel a tad bit of Star Wars into that there.
Yeah.
You actually kept characters with very distinct personalities.
A little bit of it, but I'd say there's definitely more of a Star Trek feeling in terms of...
Oh, of course. It's meant to be more like Star Trek.
Obviously.
So, yeah. Between Star Wars and Star Trek, I choose the Orville.
In terms of, like, modern incarnations, yes, take the Orville. Get rid of everything else, please.
I think that the one that suffered the least from in its future endeavors, as you've been saying,
Star Trek.
is really, I've said Star Wars. Yes, it's been milked. It's been milked. But I still believe that they've actually. There's always going to be people that hate things. Yeah. Let me stand up on my soapbox here. There's always going to be.
Where's your soapbox, Clayton?
I'm sitting down. It's close enough. My soapbox is my chair. There's always going to be people that are going to hate something. You can never, ever have everybody love at the same thing.
Of course.
It's impossible.
That's why I look for things that I enjoy.
Exactly. And I'm going to put out there my side of the thing, and you can do yours. And from there, I say that, yes, you know what? Phantom Menace should never have brought midichlorians into the whole thing.
No, that's stupid.
Should Anakin have been played by, what's his name?
By a small child to begin with?
No, actually, I'm going into the two other prequels.
Oh, Hayden Christensen?
Hayden Christensen. He's a good actor. He is actually a good actor.
Honestly, it's George Lucas. The fact is not...
I really think it is.
The man does not know how to direct. According to every, behind-the-scenes thing, the only orders he knows... the only direction he knows how to give is faster and more intense. That's all. It's faster and more intense. The man's an atrocious director.
Which apparently turns Hayden Christensen into a whiny little bitch. Which doesn't do the character justice. No. I feel like if you want a better summation of how the character is, watch the Clone Wars. From what I've seen, he's actually a much better built-up character.
He feels more like when you hear Obi-Wan talking about Anakin in episode 4. He was the best star pilot in the galaxy and a cunning warrior who was a good friend. That's kind of like you...
Flammable.
You feel when you watch the Clone Wars. I haven't watched a ton of the cartoon series, the CGI one, but yeah, it feels like they feel like friends.
Yeah. And that's what they're supposed to feel like, is that they, Anakin's grown up being trained by Obi-Wan. Mm-hmm. Obi-Wan's grown up having to train somebody out of nowhere when he wasn't even supposed to.
When he was a Padawan, they made him a Jedi Knight just so he could, actually train this guy. None
of us want to do it, you do it. Here you go, you're a knight now. I should bring up the fact that a lot of people bring up is that, here's a thought for you. There's a very good chance that when Mace told him to wait outside
in the council chambers because he was
gonna fucking do it. He was gonna make him.
I still don't hold to that.
No?
I think that
I think it could have worked.
One of the few things that George Lucas, I think, was trying to do in the prequel trilogy. It's really weird because the prequel trilogy is such a muddled mess. Was trying to make the Jedi Order seem a lot of them seem incompetent.
Well, actually, they kind of did that because think about the fact that Anakin is the one to bring up the idea. I think that Count Dooku, or not Count Dooku, or I think he says Palpatine. Yeah. I think Chancellor Palpatine is corrupt or bad or something like that. And they're like, no, bullshit.
There's a lot of points where I
feel like Anakin went too far to prove a point.
He is. I sense a plot to destroy the Jedi, and they do nothing about it. They're so arrogant and corrupt in their fucking ivory towers. And I really do not find...
I bring about the thing here that a lot of people are probably right for, is that they kept saying Anakin was meant to bring balance to the Force. Now think about it. How unbalanced was the Force at that time? You had 2 Sith Lords.
And
you had how many Jedi?
But here's the thing. And here's the problem with that. George Lucas, according to George Lucas himself, the dark side itself is an aberration in the Force. It is inherently an imbalance in the Force. You have to get rid of the dark... Because the dark side is like a malicious tumor on the Force. And in order to get rid of it, you have to balance it.
But if you think about it, basically, maybe the dark side is so warped that it figures the light side is the twisted one, and therefore needs to be taken apart too, which would cause...
Here's another problem with the EU. The light side is not a fucking thing. the whole point, the original trilogy seems to imply is the Force, people have made this comparison, is like an ocean. If you go too deep, you start drowning, and you start drowning in weird, creepy, evil shit, and you start turning evil. You have to, you don't stay on the surface, you don't ride the waves, you go down a little bit, and you stay in there, and you find a balance, as it were.
That's where you get Grey Jedi.
But here's my problem with Grey Jedi.
Yeah, shush. Anyway.
well, I will murder you later, it's
We're
fine.
already at 4 minutes past, so
whatever, it's better than 3 hours.
True. But anyways, where was I going with this? Anyways, so I was trying to say is the fact, is there problems? Of course there's problems.
Yes.
God damn, there is problems. Of course there is. But there's still more good, I feel, than problems. The thing is that people focus on problems and blow them up to be the worst part. Is Hayden Christensen as Anakin really annoying? Yes! But is Liam... what the hell?
Ewan McGregor.
Ewan McGregor.
Ewan McGregor's fantastic.
Is amazing as
Ian
Space
McDormand
Jesus.
is fantastic as Palpatine. He's one of the best performances in the entire trilogy.
And even what's his name played Dooku?
Christopher Lee.
Christopher Lee was amazing. He is amazing. He was amazing in every role.
That's why I may disagree.
The man was amazing.
I really don't think they gave him enough material to work with.
I think he was amazing with what he had to do. Work with.
Fair.
To be fair, I'll go with that.
Christopher Lee's a great
Also,
actor.
he has one of the more cool-looking lightsabers with the bent handle type thing. Also, I should say that people give the Jedi and Mace shit for not being ready for Palpatine, but how are you ready for somebody screaming at you and spiraling at you with a lightsaber?
They shouldn't have.
There's no way to be ready for that.
Well, no, but they shouldn't have get to that point. Is the fact that they have
Admittedly,
they have no idea what the fuck they're doing. They admit there's a point. I think it's in episode 2. They say that I believe our ability to use the Force has been compromised, and they don't do anything about it. They don't tell anybody. They don't say anything. They just hide it. They keep it to themselves.
There is that, but you might also think the fact that what good would it do to tell anybody? Because the fact being is all you'll do is spread panic, and that's not useful.
Well, sure, you don't do this publicly, but you have to do something about it. You can't just do nothing and just keep letting it get worse and worse until Palpatine's just cast his whole net of dark side all over the place.
Basically. Moving from there, I mean, if you go into... try to keep this short if I can. If you move into... let's go with the Disney series. Let's go with the Disney sequels.
Yeah.
I find I'm one of the few people that likes them. I think that they're still really good. Like I said, this may sound counter to my whole expanded universe rant, but I do like those ones. I feel like it's still entertaining. They came up with some new blood in the case of Rey and Finn and Poe.
I'm going to continue
as well as
arguing.
BB-8.
I'm very excited to counter all your arguments. We have to go. This is the whole point, is to discuss things. We got time. It's only 3 in the morning.
Is that all? But yeah, we have Rey, Finn, and Poe, not to mention BB-8, who is the next best little robot after R2-D2. And they don't really give Rey enough background on her parents. I mean, hell, it takes the second one for fucking what's his name?
Kylo Ren?
Kylo to fucking say they were basically losers who sold you off for drinking money, booze money, basically. But it works out for anyways. So she still gains knowledge of the Force and some small amount of training, I suppose. Pardon me. And it still brings... I still feel it has the spirit of the adventure that you expect. There's still things going on there. She is going off... She's basically luking. She is going off on her adventure, starting off from nothing, basically, or very little. Actually, less than Luke, because Luke still had a loving family and all that kind of thing. So... And it moves from there, and I really like that they actually gave characters like Finn an interesting point on that. Now, admittedly, the New Order Stormtroopers are not clones, not like the old style ones.
Well, no, the original trilogy Stormtroopers weren't either.
No, they are.
No, they were recruited.
I'm pretty sure they are.
We've talked about this before.
I'm still pretty sure they are.
They were
then
not.
How are they all trash shots?
Because they're not clones of Jango Fett.
Yes, but all those clones were trash shots too.
No, they were.
No. Now I think the clones were good.
They were fantastic. That was the whole point. Is they beat the droids back single-handedly.
Yeah.
They fucking wiped out the entire Jedi Order with no problems, almost entirely.
Did they just not train them?
It's because the random conscripts that they just get from random backwater
Explain
planets.
how all the Stormtroopers, when they talked, had the same voice.
Because they only had one guy to pay to do the voice.
But still, it's an interesting thing to see a character come. They try to do the whole thing where there's still good in you and you come to light side, but they always try to do it as a big ovation, a big fancy thing where the big bad guy comes to the light side. Vader, repents on his deathbed kind of thing. But to have somebody they made him very human. They made Finn very human in the fact that he literally is a part of this raid on this camp of people, and he gets physically sick from seeing what they're doing to it and has to pull himself together and get the fuck out of there. So it's an interesting twist. Actually, Finn is definitely my favorite character from the new series. My new character. Obviously, Han Solo's still going to beat them out.
Well, he's dead, Clayton.
That's fine. In the first one.
Alright.
But yeah, that's basically my point. The fact being is that they have their problems, yes, but Star Trek ain't perfect either.
Oh god, no. Nothing is perfect. Except for my waifu.
Yeah, but who has nothing to do with Star Trek?
Well, obviously, I'm just mentioning.
You have no point. There's no point to that.
Certainly.
So, go ahead and tell me how amazing Star Trek is. Well, we still have time.
I don't wish to tell you how amazing Star Trek is. I just merely wish to say that Star Trek has less fallen farther from the tree, as it were, than Star Wars. The majority of the Star Trek series still seem to get the point. They get the feeling, they get the atmosphere, they get the environment. Star Wars doesn't. From, the very first. The fact that, the original Star Wars was saved in editing, the fact that so much of their lines had to be redubbed and ad-libbed, the fact that it's this weird ad hoc mess, the original trilogy, and then when George Lucas takes control, it's just, he doesn't understand things, he, screws everything up to begin with, and then when everyone's mad because they hate it, they sell it off to a soulless corporate entity that only wants to make money, and doesn't seem to understand that characters need to actually go through struggles, and that when you make a character redeem themselves, they shouldn't immediately, because they hate killing, they shouldn't immediately start killing their brothers, and screaming and woo-hooing about it.
Which one are you talking about?
Finn. As soon as he leaves as soon as he gets in the thing with Poe, he just immediately starts shooting his stormtrooper brothers that he's lived beside for years. He didn't even know the village people, but he knew these stormtroopers for years. He lived beside them. He raised beside them.
From the looks of it, though, you know what Finn was? He was the fucking janitor stormtrooper. He was literally the janitor. He says it himself.
Well,
that means that literally every single... you see it, too. None of these other stormtroopers really give a shit about him. They don't like him, and therefore, obviously, he had no friends. So what do these people mean to him? Who cares? Who cares about... Who does he care about these guys? Fuck them. They didn't like him. It's the whole school shooter kind of thing going on.
But here's the thing, too. Why the fuck should he care about these innocent people, too? No one gives a shit about him, but suddenly these people that he never met, it very clearly gave him a shit about his friend, because his friend dies in front of him, and that's what prompts him to actually start giving a shit, and then he just starts murdering everyone anyways. He just doesn't give a shit, and then he's irrelevant for the rest of the whole fucking movie. You could remove him from the rest of the movie, and he makes no goddamn difference, except for one bit at the end when they go to the Death Star 3.0.
Yeah, Star Killer Base.
I have nothing but complaints. Star Wars disappoints me on so many levels. I cannot begin to explain to me.
You are shrouded in the dark side. You cannot see the good anymore. There is still good in them.
Well, sure, but it's just not enough. Okay, here's a comparison. Here's an apple. All of it is rotten as far as you can see. There's one little tiny good bit in it. Are you going to carve away all the rest of the shit? Just eat that one little tiny fucking speck. And let's say you didn't pay a whole lot of money for it. Let's say, you paid like $1. Are you going to do that? Are you going to put that work in to get that tiny morsel that's not going to satisfy you from one instant?
Yes. Depends on how hungry I am, honestly.
You're not even that hungry. You're not even that hungry. You're just like, I'd like...
You're talking to the guy who would do that literally just to spite you in this case.
Of course. I feel the argument doesn't work then.
No, it doesn't.
This is so very... This is where we come to blows.
I told you it was going to end in blood sooner or later. But the fact is that we're never going to agree on this, and this has basically brought us down to the base levels of Trekkies versus Star Wars peoples, because they're never going to get along, and it's never going to have a perfect belief of one is as good as the other. There's going to always be like, yours is bad, worse in this way. We're not going to come to an accord. It's not how this is going to end.
I'm not even a Trekkie. I generally call myself more a Star Wars fan than a Star Trek fan. The original Star Wars trilogy is a fucking masterpiece of film, despite the fact that it's also a goddamn mess. It's also very strange to me to begin with that these fan bases would start arguing with each other when they're entirely different and serve entirely different purposes.
I think, like I'm saying though, there is no happy ending for us on this. This is not going to come out set and solid in stone that yes, this is this way and this is that way, because it's never going to happen. And the two of us do not have the power to change that.
We will probably never agree on this.
And neither will most people.
No.
Thing is, there's always going to be the outlier fans for both parts, and it's always going to clash. But you know what? There's always going to be fans out there too. I'm putting myself out there, like me, that can find both good and bad in both. And I think maybe like you too, you can still find good enough to watch them at times too.
Some of them.
Some of them.
I'm
a little more open-minded than you are.
Yes.
But yeah, so I think we should just leave it on that note before we go off on any more tangents.
Leave it on the fact that things don't always have a fine, conclusive ending, and the fact that sometimes people disagree with each other. We don't always have to murder each other.
It's true. I'm still going to murder you, though.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I've already won. I am already right.
But you're just reiterating what I just said.
Yes.
So actually, I'm right, and you're just agreeing with me.
How about neither of us are right? Let's take a third option. None of us are right. We're all wrong. What do we do then?
How about why don't we go with the inclusivity of society and say we're all right?
But that changes nothing.
Exactly. And so life goes on. On to the final frontier. But we can all agree on one thing. Midichlorians was the stupidest idea to include ever.
I don't think anyone will disagree with you.
Exactly. The one time everybody will agree.
There's going to be someone who's going to disagree.
Actually, I think the midichlorians added a very important aspect to shut the fuck up. Who asked you, buddy? Nobody asked you. But really, no.
Here's another thing we can agree on. We both like the original series Star Trek, both like the original Star Wars trilogy.
Which brought us into this whole this talk for the first place.
Indeed.
So, well, there is bad and good in both. Nobody's ever going to fully agree on which one's better, because you know what? There isn't a better one.
There isn't.
They are both good in their own way. And, I mean, we went into that on the first two parts, talking about the characters.
Yes.
The fact being is that
they're similar, but different.
One is sci-fi, one is sci-fantasy.
Yep.
And that's where we should leave it. Because, you know what? Watch what you like. No one's wrong, no one's right. It's just good watching. Entertainment.
Unless it's actually bad.
It's just entertainment.
I will disagree. We agree to disagree.
Yes.
Very well. I will go along with this.
Wrong series.
A better series.
It's not very logical.
Oh god, what the fuck?
What?
You did weird shit. You start switching shit over.
I just moved my mouse over, man. What?
You fucked the shit up, fam.
Well, it's still recording, so it's fine. But anyways, on that note, I hope you enjoyed this. We again went over a little bit, but it was only 15 minutes. So I hope you enjoyed it. I think we got our points across. Mm-hmm. And I'll expect some more next time. What is it going to be next time? No clue.
I remembered something and then I forgot it.
I have an idea, but I don't know if I have enough to elaborate for an hour. So going from there, let's call it a day and say good night, everyone. Have a good night. Be good to each other. And bye.
Don't eat the L snow.